Before we begin, thank you very much to Help! I'm trapped in a canoe with a dozen squirrels with nunchucks! For joining the Patreon campaign. Someone said that yesterday's name was the best name they had ever heard on these shoutouts, and I beg to differ. No, give it a day, because these came in at the exact same time. This was two people or one person with two email addresses, I don't know which one, teaming up to give me a lovely back-to-back combo. Thank you for being very silly and funny. I do appreciate it. Okay, so I've got enough shout-outs to last me to the weekend. I still don't know. I'm kind of putting off all of the recording I need to do in order to keep the streak alive for MetroCon, just in case the streak keeps up, because it's not like a me thing. That is, it's you guys having fun. You're the ones who really want the streak to continue. Otherwise, the shout-outs would have ended months ago. But that's all on you, and I'm at your mercy there, if we're going to have enough to get through all of next week without issue. So, we'll leave it at that, and we'll move on to today's topic. So, we are exactly 1 week away from the release of Rise of the Beast on digital platforms, and that pretty much means we're kind of putting an end cap to its box office ability. Now, internationally, it's not quite the same. It's going to continue to make some money theatrically, so it's not quite done. And I do believe it's still in domestic theaters as well, but for the most part, the movie has made the vast majority of the money that it's going to make at the box office. So this is the part where we start questioning exactly how it did. Now, fair warning, going over this information means we're going to go through a lot of charts. I know it's not going to be the most exciting thing. However, it's important to know how this movie did and what that might mean for Transformers movies in the future. So, first off, what inspired this was seeing things like this come up in Google, where one website says it had an impressive global box office total, but another website is concerned about how much money it is making. So this is a little bit weird. It's a little bit weird to see such varied reactions to this movie, whereas some are impressed by how much money it's making, others seem disappointed. So we're getting mixed signals. We're getting mixed signals, so I decided to do the research myself. Now, to this point, it is important to note that the box office this year has been an utter disaster. It's been a complete mess, and it's been super hit and miss what has worked and what has not worked. So you've got big budget movies like Dial of Destiny that absolutely just came out, and opening weekend says, this is going to bomb really hard. This is going to bomb real hard. And movies like Flash Did Okay, the Dungeons & Dragons movies, both of those are considered bombs. And then you've got things like Pixar posting its first genuine bomb with Elemental. There's others like Ant-Man and Wasp. Was that this year? I can't even remember now, but I know that was one I heard, because Disney themselves is having a real bad run. Here. So it's messy, and it's for a lot of reasons, and it's a lot of pandemic-based reasons. So for starters, a lot of movie theaters are shut down. These don't open in nearly as many movie theaters as they used to. So that's kind of a struggle. Two, there's still a lot of people that don't really go to movies anymore. A couple years inside avoiding human contact and going out to big crowds like this changed a lot of people's habits. People don't really want to sit and wait at a theater anymore when they find it more comfortable and cheaper to just wait for the movie to come out on digital and watch it at home. Maybe you don't get that big screen experience, but there's a lot of people now that realize they don't really need that big screen experience, and that comes from, a couple years cooped up with nothing but a small screen to watch. I'm kind of the same way. See that? See that big black thing behind Unicron? That's currently, if Unicron wasn't in the way, you'd see it's covered up by Power Ranger boxes. That is my TV, which is a nice 50-inch TV. It was great for playing video games on. But honestly, I have not turned that TV on to watch anything in years. Because I'm usually at my computer working on stuff, talking to friends, playing games, etc. So why don't I just watch it here in the comfort of my chair, like right here on the screen, where I can, like where I can satisfy my ADHD by popping over to other tabs and doing other things while I listen to the movie in the background, only pop in once in a while when I think a good scene's about to come up. The normal thing. So yeah, like there's a lot of habits that have changed in the last few years, and there's a lot, there's not as many like big things coming out in the movies that make people go, I want to pay $18 for a ticket and then $10 for snacks and drink, and miss part of the movie because I overestimated my bladder control, that kind of thing. So it's a lot of change. So let's get into Rise of the Beast itself, just to kind of see how it did. So for starters, let's look at the Rotten Tomato. 54% rotten on the tomato meter from professional critics, 91% audience score, which is actually really, really good. We've learned this year that the critic score does not mean anything, right? This is the year where we kind of learned that with the Mario movie. The critics just really don't freaking know how to have fun at a movie anymore, and they're just way too critical, way too cynical critical. The critic consensus here is that thanks to the genuine human drama between the set pieces and palpable action from the title characters, Transformers Rise of the Beast is one of the franchise's most enjoyable outings. True. I will say it again. I think it's better than any of the Bayverse movies, and I think it's just a little below Bumblebee. And then the audience score says Rise of the Beast takes the series in a new direction. False. Without skipping on the action that fans will look for. So yeah, as a popcorn flick, it's got the same action the other ones did. But honestly, that might be why the reaction to it has been mixed, because it's more of the same. So let's take a look here. Let's take a look at actual like critic responses, just so we know a few others, but outside of Rotten Tomato. 7 out of 10 from IGN, which says it took a lot from Bumblebee. 2.5 stars from RogerEbert.com, etc. And it. It's pretty much what you would expect. Someone complaining that the fight scenes end with big chunks of metal slamming into each other. They're giant robots. How else is it going to end? They also like Mirage though. So I do think Mirage is the best one. Let's see if I'm looking through here. What's the most ridiculous one? One of the criticisms was that a lot of generic parts wouldn't be out of place in previous 6 Transformers movies. I would actually agree with that. Another fast-cut, murky, CGI-fueled action sequence. That's false. That is absolutely false. The CGI in this is not murky. You can tell characters apart from each other. Most of the fight scenes are brightly lit. And no, they don't fast cut like they did with if you're saying fast cut, you're like making a criticism of like it was like the Michael Bay movies. It's not. It takes its time. It shows things a lot better than the Bay movies. It's not nearly as quick cut as those were. So yeah, okay. So this is definitely like another like weird mix movie. It's a mixed reaction movie, which honestly for a Transformers live action movie isn't really that bad, which is kind of sad to say, but that's where we are today. Okay, so that's critic response, that's audience response. Audiences seem to like it way better than critics did, but of course that seems to be the norm these days. And it seems vice versa. I've seen critics go nuts over movies that audiences just didn't care for. But that's jaded critics talking. Let's talk numbers. Let's talk actual numbers. So here's the performance of Rise of the Beast. You can see where it is starting to taper off and flatten out its line. Once it hits out like obviously like this is box office performance. This doesn't account for home video releases. It doesn't count for DVD and Blu-ray. It doesn't count for streaming platforms. So it's going to make more money beyond this. So keep that one in mind. All right. So worldwide box office, $379 million off of a $195 million budget. All right. So it does come close to doubling its numbers. Okay. So that's not bad. That's not bad at all. So, it's definitely not what Paramount would probably want or expect, but considering it's, the first big bloated budget, big action movie, Transformer movie since The Last Knight, yeah, that's actually not too bad. It's not too bad. And like we said, it's got a little bit more to go. Just a little bit more to go. Also, to my point, you can see here it opened up in about 3,600 theaters. It used to open up in just over 4,000 theaters. So that'll tell you how many went under during the pandemic. All right, so let's keep that in mind. So how did it do? We need comparison, because like this is just one datum. That doesn't tell us anything. Let's compare it to Bumblebee. If we compare it to Bumblebee, obviously Bumblebee's line's a lot longer, because that's because that's a movie that's been out for a long time now. And Rise of the Beast is still currently in theaters, so its line is going to keep going up. This is kind of the curve you're going to expect. So it's going to, once it reaches home video, it's going to hit a sharp flattening. So we haven't quite hit that, but here we go. And as you can see, the numbers below here. Rise of the Beast did better than Bumblebee in just about every regard. So that works out for that. Bumblebee does do a little bit better in the worldwide box office, which is, this chart is for domestic, so you get that, and then worldwide Bumblebee pulled in more money. So domestically it's doing better, and internationally it's doing worse. It still has time internationally. We talked about that before, but whether or not that's going to pull in another, $90 million in order to actually match Bumblebee, that's to be decided. Okay, so there's a little bit of data to show, yes, in ways it did better than Bumblebee. The other thing to keep in mind is Bumblebee is like $90 million cheaper to make than this movie was. So it's not quite a fair scale here. They had to spend a lot more money to get overall less results out of Rise of the Beast. That's a bad sign. That's a really bad sign, actually. All right, so even though the movie made money, it did not do what its predecessor did. But it's not really the predecessor, is it? The real predecessor is The Last Night, because that's the formula that this movie's going for, the big bloated budget blockbuster, right? So if we compare it to that, we can see Last Night falls somewhere in the middle. If we look at overall worldwide box office, The Last Night, remember, was considered a flop, even though it profited almost $400 million. Now, the production budget doesn't include certain elements, so it typically is a little bit more expensive than that. But still, roughly $400 million profit, and that was considered a poor performance. Now, Rise of the Beast performance looks even worse. Now it looks really bad, all right? So this is troubling. We've gone from bad to troubling. So, like I said, it's got more time, but it's really not going to do that. But again, domestically, the movie did better. The movie made more money domestically than The Last Night did. A lot of that is because the Chinese audience was so much stronger in those movies. A lot of those later Bay movies kind of pandered to that demographic, to that area of the world. A lot of movies do, because it's a massive market for movies. And you got to fit in just the right way in order to actually get airtime there. So yes, more troubling. But this is still not even what we're really looking for here. What Paramount wants, what they want for the live action Transformer movies in the first place, is they want to get back to the blockbusters that Michael Bay was producing. They want those numbers. So let's compare it to Age of Extinction, the last one that was considered a really big blockbuster movie. Oh. So, compared to Age of Extinction, Rise of the Beast made about a third of the money on about the same budget. That's not good. That's really not good. So, yeah, we are a far cry from where Transformers used to be. And really, when the movies all kind of feel the same, when we kind of get the same experience out of all of them, and generally they are considered to be lower quality movies on the whole, it doesn't really shock you to realize that audiences just might not be receptive or responsive to it anymore. It just might be the fact that we're all burned out on Transformers movies. You can say, well, it's been like, what, 4 or 5 years since we had one in theaters? Even longer if you go between, like, The Last Night and Rise of the Beast. But seriously, like, at some point, you just have to, like, sit back and go, wow, that's just not working, is it? To go back and do the same thing that stopped working before and expecting a new result just because time elapsed is kind of madness. It's its own special brand of madness, and it really, really doesn't work. Also, yeah, Age of Extinction, 4,200 theaters, 3,600 theaters for Rise of the Beast. So that's another reason. And keep in mind, that's a global thing. Pandemic happened everywhere. Movie theaters shut down everywhere. So there's another reason why maybe the box office totals aren't as big as you'd expect. And that said, it's not impossible. Rise of the Beast is still the number 8 movie of the year so far between John Wick and Creed 3. And it is ahead of movies that are considered bombs like The Flash and Dungeons & Dragons. Realize something here. The Flash is considered a box office bomb even though it's the 10th highest grossing movie domestically of the year. Oh, and this isn't even domestic. This is worldwide. This is worldwide. I forgot I made this one worldwide. Yeah, worldwide, Flash is number 10. It's considered a bomb because it only made about $20 million. Not good. Really not good. And that's how everything is in the in the spectrum of this year's box office. Ant-Man and Wasp was considered disappointing. It's the number 6 movie of the year. The standards are really high right now. The standards are really high. Unless you are the Mario Brothers movie, you're really not gaining anything here, are you? I will admit, I don't like. I'm hoping these numbers are correct because I seem to have pulled it from a good location, but it just in general gives you an idea of just like how extreme we're talking here, right? Just how extreme this is, with just like how weird the box office is this year. Now, the numbers are concerning not only for the performance of this movie, but also the fact that we have others coming out. Transformers 1 is coming out next year, and we already know that it's been cast. They announced the voice cast. They've been talking about performing these characters, so the lines have already been recorded. This movie's probably been in production for a while now. It's coming out no matter what Rise of the Beast does. So no matter what, we're going to see this. And a fully CGI Transformers movie is going to be the first thing they've really done different in a long time. Bumblebee is different in vibe, but not really in style. So this is going to be the real test of Transformers as a brand, if they can branch out into something different, and if that works or not. And then, of course, we have the fact that this is supposed to be a trilogy. Rise of the Beast was supposed to kick off a brand new trilogy, but if its box office performance is disappointing, Paramount's going to be really hesitant to capitalize on that. So yes, it made money, but it didn't make the money they expected it to make, and it certainly didn't live up to its predecessors, and that's where they start making the judgments. They cut off the Bayverse with The Last Night, even though Last Night did a little bit better than Rise of the Beast did. So how do you get away with doing another movie if Last Night was considered bad? It's completely up in the air right now. And it's really going to hinge on Transformers 1, I feel. I feel like that movie is basically going to determine the future of Transformers movies in general. I don't know. It might just be time to either do something radically different, just, take the Beast Wars approach, flush it all and start something new. Maybe something that is purely Beast Wars, since that seems to be the part people liked about the last movie so much. Or Transformers 1 takes off and you make it a strictly animated world from now on. Which in case we might end up on our third continuity for Transformers live action movies. That'll be fun to hear Bonaventura explain. So, that's the analysis. That's basically how Rise of the Beast has done as a movie. Not too great. okay, but not great, and really not what they needed it to be, considering they want to start the franchise all over again with this one. We will see how it goes from here. But for now, that is the video. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you learned something. At least hope you stuck through a lot of chart digging. It's interesting to me. I don't know how interesting it is to you, but I do think it's at least worth knowing. So thank you for coming along with me, and I will see you next time.
I'm like, I think you guys got this. I will back away, and I will see you all later.
You've got this handled.
Alafi's like, really? You're not gonna help me? Like, it's fine now.
It's like these disgusting creatures breathing down my neck, and you're all just like, I believe in you. You got this.
All right, you seem to have this. 5 minutes.